have ballerina feet, feet that don't go flat comfortably, put something underneath your shins from knee to ankle. Let your toes, tops of your foot hang off that platform. Because we're going to be in this child's pose for a while. And you might normally be able to tolerate a minute or two with uncomfortable ankles, but no reason you need to tolerate tonight. We're going to be moving slowly, getting deep into these poses. So a modification you can make if you have feet that do not point ballerina style is to put a support from ankle to knee. Let your feet hang off the end. So you can make that modification. And then continuing to build this child's pose up. If your knees don't bend all the way, if you have a thin blanket, folded towel, or a flat type of pillow, you could put something in your knee pits. So if you prop up into your knee pits, that will keep the knees from overbending. So some of you might already be on 2 pillows, 2 layers, something underneath your shins, something between your legs. And then big toes are together, knees are going to go apart. And you're going to build a berm out in front, a big pile of pillows. So this is pillow pile yoga. If you're new to me, on Wednesday nights I do a special theme, a different special yoga adventure. And this week is pillow pile pajama yoga, if you got your pajamas on. So make a big old berm in between your legs. So you want it tucked just behind the knees, so up touching your inner thighs. And you might pile up a row of blocks, and you might cover it with a bolster, or pile of pillows, a pile of folded blankets. And be generous with your padding here, because you really want to be able to pull this all in up against your tummy. So I got something touching just inside my knees. I got the next layer pulled up a little closer, and the next layer pulled up even closer still. Then I'm going to lift my chest up and over top. I'm going to take this one earpiece out so I can rest my cheek and let my arms hang. Now, if I've built up so much stuff here that my forearms don't comfortably reach the floor and they're kind of dangling in midair, well, then you can take blocks, folded blankets, piles of stuff to go underneath your forearms. You want everything that's dangling to be supported. And you're not done yet. If you have a spa associate available who can come by and drape a blanket over top, that would be even more heavenly. So you're going to come into a fully supported, restorative child's pose. And if at any time you need to turn your head the other way, rest on your other cheek, feel free to do so. And just check in with your breath. Let your breath come slowly in and out through your nose. And if you have built up enough support beneath your body, you can really melt into this. And you might feel or experience why small children sometimes fall asleep in this position. And how comforting it can be to have all your tender bits and pieces concealed and protected and have your back turned to the world, and maybe even if blanket draped over top, hiding in a little cave. And how this might just knock you right out. But I don't want you to fall asleep quite yet. Although by the end of class, you'll probably sleep really well tonight. So turn your attention inward, find your breath. I'll give you something to do here while you settle in. Just observe your breath. Let your breath come slowly in and out through your nose. Feel the breath in between your shoulder blades. Feel your breath in your back ribs. Feel the breath across your back waistband. And feel breath all the way from the base of your skull to your tailbone, all along your back body. And as you observe your breath, count silently to yourself. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Notice how long your inhalation lasts and how long your exhalation lasts. And as you settle in, endeavor to elongate your exhalations. Emphasize the exhale. Try to get every last puff of breath out and then begin your inhalation. Really slowing down and elongating the breath cycle. And if you've turned your head to one side, go ahead and switch sides, turn the other cheek. Again, settle in a little bit deeper. Let those shoulders melt away from your ears. Let your elbows hang a little heavier. Settle into your support. Breathe between your shoulder blades. Breathe into your back ribs. Breathe into your back waistband. And as you observe the duration of the inhalation, the duration of the exhalation, ultimately we're trying to cultivate a 4-second inhale and a 6-second exhale. And the trick to this is to let go. No forcing, no pushing, no trying, no striving or straining. Just surrender and observe. Take a detached third person, outsider's perspective, observation of what's going on with your breath. And what's going on with your thoughts for that matter. So your task is to observe your breath, but your mind will get bored quickly and your mind will want to wander. And when your mind begins to wander off and you lose track of what you're supposed to be doing right now, or what you're trying to be doing right now, and you start thinking about the past or the future and everything but this moment, this pose, this breath. Just dispassionately, detachedly observe and think to yourself, that's an interesting thought to be having right now. Acknowledge it, and then set it aside. The trick to this cognitive reframing is the outsider's perspective, non-judgmental acknowledgement of the stray thought. That's an interesting thought. Let it go. Set it aside. Make time for it later. Keep on breathing. Notice that 4-second inhale, 6-second exhale is a really restorative, restful breathing pattern. So as we move through the class, move as if you're doing this in your sleep, like sleepwalking, but sleep yoga. So moving slowly, dreamily, transitioning from one pose to the next. I'll do my best to describe these poses so you don't have to open your eyes if you don't absolutely need to. So here we are settled into child's pose. Do not move yet. Just keep breathing. So this is child's pose. Heels beneath your sit bones, your knees apart, chest resting on your pile of pillows, maybe your forearms resting on some blocks, maybe some padding underneath your shins, maybe some padding between your knees. You're going to keep as much of the upper body situation as possible. So this big pile of whatever you have underneath your chest, you want to kind of maintain that. Everything else is going to change a little bit, because in a moment you're going to be coming into Baddha Konasana. That's the butterfly pose. So as you slowly move and transition into butterfly pose, press your hands against the ground. Let your head hang. And maybe you can do this with your head hanging, your eyes partially closed. Swing your legs out in front of you. Put something to sit on beneath your hips. So if you have blocks, sit on blocks. Sitting on blocks will allow your knees to fall more comfortably open out to the sides. So sitting on a couple of blocks, I recommend a block per butt cheek. You have a nice broad base to put your broad base up on top of. And then put the bottom of your feet together. And if your pinky toe blade edges of your feet are bony, you might consider putting a little extra padding underneath your feet. Knees open out to the sides. And if your knees are not supported yet, that's what you're going to do. You're going to put enough stuff underneath your knees so that your legs aren't hanging in midair. So couch cushions. It's nice that we're at home for this because there's plenty of props available for most of us. So a good thick stack of something underneath each knee. Sitting on a little height, bottoms of the feet together. And now I've got my pile of pillows here. I'm going to take this pile of pillows and I'm going to put a little something on top of my feet and a little bit more something up against my belly button and then a little something for my chest. And I'm going to lift my chest up and drape over. Now I might need a little bit more height. So that's where the extra couch cushions might come in handy, a little bit more height for underneath your chest. And then settle in. And be honest with yourself. If it feels a little pinchy in the front of your hips, you need to sit on more stuff. Take 30 seconds to make yourself more comfortable. Sit on more stuff if the front of your hips feel pinchy. Put a little bit more support underneath your knees if you're feeling too much stretch on your inner thighs. Put some padding underneath your pinky toes, under the bony edges of your feet. Put more stuff underneath your chest so that your chest is supported, your belly is supported, your head is supported. Get comfy. And again, if you have spa services available to you, I recommend having a blanket draped over top. Put yourself in a cocoon. So this is Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose. Butterfly pose, cobbler's pose, tailor's pose. It's got a few names. And in this Baddha Konasana, find your breath once again. Check in with that old friend. Get caught up. Notice what's going on with your breath. Counting the duration of the inhale, the duration of the exhale. Is your breath still relaxed, calm, smooth, and deep? Can you feel that breath between your shoulder blades? Feel that breath across your back waist. Take some nice deep belly breaths and feel that breath opening up the front of your hips. Again, just observing, counting the duration of your breath. And invite a longer, slower breath by surrendering. Letting your muscles hang from the bones, letting your bones settle into the earth and the support. Being with your breath in this moment. And just acknowledge how challenging it is to quiet your mind, to quiet that mental chatter. And the idea is to observe that tendency. And again, observe it, acknowledge it, set it aside. Maybe your mind wanders. It won't always. You just haven't gotten there yet. And again, thinking about what we're going to be doing before we do it. Trying to move with a mental image of where we're going to end up in mind. So we don't do any unnecessary or extra fidgeting. So the next pose we're going to be moving into is very similar to what you're doing here. The only difference is you take your feet apart and stretch your legs out. So you'll end up with your legs in a V. Sitting on the floor with your legs in a V, bent over, chest completely supported. You might want to have an extra pillow or two nearby to really fully support your torso. Because this third pose is the most intense so far. In child's pose, you were really well supported. In this pose, maybe it's a little bit more challenging to feel completely supported. And in this third pose coming up, the more stuff, the better, so that you can really settle into it. So let your hands drop down towards the ground. Press into the floor, into your hands to sit up. Again, trying to move as if you're doing this in your sleep, half asleep. Soft daydreaming eyes. This pile of stuff you had beneath your chest, we'll come back to that in just a moment. Still sitting on whatever you're sitting upon. Again, be honest with yourself. If that wasn't quite enough, sit on more. No shame in being comfortable. This is where a beach towel or a small folded blanket might do, especially if you have knees that hyperextend. You can tuck a little something something in your knee pits. That's especially comforting if you're one of those people with really loose joints and you tend to hyperextend your knees. You're going to have all this weight coming forward, so do support those knees. If you have extra stuff nearby, you might even consider tucking a little something into the hollow on the back side of your ankles. So you filled the hollow in your knee pit, you can follow the hollow, fill the hollow in your ankle, between the ankle and floor. That might help your feet relax even more. Might be surprised about how much more relaxed your feet are when you do support behind that ankle, if you have the toys nearby. Sitting on plenty of height so that the front of your hips do not feel pinchy. Legs are out in a V. They're not out in a straight full sideways split. It's a V. Feet are going to be floppy and relaxed. And when your feet flop and relaxed, have support behind the knees so the knees don't hyperextend. And adjust the width between your legs so that when your feet go floppy and relaxed, your feet don't flop out and they don't flop in. You can go a little wider, a little narrower to find that custom width between the feet. Supporting the ankles, a good idea as well. And then you want to bring pillow mountain to you. You don't bring yourself to the mountain, you bring the mountain to you. So take your couch cushion, wedge it up against your belly button. Take another one, wedge it in against your chest. Maybe another one on top of that. Maybe a little something to put your face on. It's up to you, what makes you comfortable. If you have even more stuff to rest your forearms on some support, that might be really, really luxurious. So, settling in. By no means is this about putting your chest on the floor. It's more like halfway upright supported. So again, settling in. And just know that whatever comes up, whatever comes to mind is just part of the experience. It's just part of it. It's not right or wrong, it just is. And it's all about detaching, disassociating from the shouldas. All those little self-judgments. I should have done that, I should have done this. All that stuff just leads to heartache, heartbreak. And ruminating on the past or obsessing over the future doesn't let you rest in the present, which is what we're attempting to do this evening. So your challenge is to continue to bring your attention back to that breath. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. Yield to the support, surrender, and make space within each and every breath. Make space between each and every thought. And again, just acknowledge and know that whatever comes to mind is normal. It's just part of the experience. It's not wrong. It's not right. It just is. As if there was any other speed you would move at. You're going to move slowly. We'll be transitioning into a sleeping mermaid pose, which means you're going to have to dismantle this whole pile of stuff and rearrange it. And you'll find yourself sitting side saddle, one foot near the other knee, both legs kind of making zigzags on the ground. More weight will be in one hip than the other. You might consider putting something underneath your butt. Lift your hips up, take some tension off your knees. And then you're going to put a big pile of stuff next to your hip pocket. So let's slowly move and start to get into that situation. Using your hands to press yourself up. Don't be shy about yawning if you haven't already. Eventually a yawn is going to sneak up on you. Yawning is an indication that you are shifting gears, switching modes, settling in. So I'm going to clear my area here just so you have a better visual. You might need to glance up and see what I'm doing. I'm going to replace the blocks that I had underneath my butt with a little softer something. My cheeks are getting a little tender on those hard blocks. I'm really settling in. So I'm going to give myself something to sit on. And I'm going to put a cheek. You decide which one this is. This happens to be my left cheek. A cheek and a half up on there. And then I'm going to sit with my legs staggered, one foot near the other knee, other foot pointed back behind. Now, if your knee doesn't like this, sit on more stuff. If that doesn't help, then you can take the leg out straight. But consider sitting on more stuff to take the pinch out of your hips and any tenderness off that knee. Now, over here, like it just fell out of my hip pocket change, I'm going to pile up a nice berm, a nice pile of pillows. And I'm sitting upright here and I'm wedging this in right against my hip and the next one in right against my waist and the next one in right up into the side of the boob. I'm putting a lot on top. And I've got this wedged in close to me. I'm going to actually now turn my chest on top of this pile of stuff. To help get my chest, it helps to turn my belly, drag my belly over, and then lift my ribs up, lift my boobs up, and drape them over the pillows. Now, one cheek might float, that's fine. One cheek might float quite a bit. Put enough stuff underneath your body, not to bring your body down onto something, but to bring something up onto your body. So bring it up in against yourself. And again, if you have extra cushions, blocks can go underneath your forearms, or pillows can go underneath your forearms. That really does help relax the upper body so much more than just having your arms dangle. So again, take an extra 30 seconds. Run and go get that couch cushion. Give yourself a little extra support here. Twisting your torso up on top of that pile of pillows, turning to rest on one cheek or the other, letting your forearms rest on blocks, piles of pillows. And again, if you have someone who's amazing nearby, who wants to drape a blanket over top of you, invite that to happen. I call this one Sleeping Mermaid. It's a variation on Virasana mermaid pose, Sleeping Mermaid. In this Sleeping Mermaid, as you settle in, You might find that you've got one hip cheek floating in the air, one butt cheek floating. The more you can breathe into your side body, your side waist, the more that hip will begin to drop. Your side waist opens up. And if anything is not 100% comfortable, take 2 seconds to adjust. Put in a little extra padding. Shift it this way or that. Make sure you are really comfy. So like a waterlogged mermaid draped upon the rocks out at La Jolla Cove, basking in the sun. Turn your attention back to your breath. Settle and surrender to extend your breath. Your brain is always looking for something, always searching out new experiences. It wants constant input. That's why it loves the cell phone. Constant input. But the only time your mind really gets creative is when you let it wander. And the only way to get your mind to wander is to withhold input or overload it with so much input you can't focus. Ways you can induce that meditative trance-like state, the state of mind that leads to epiphany, to strokes of genius. The only way to cultivate that dreamlike, trance-like state, willfully cultivate it, is to starve your mind of input. Your mind will begin to attenuate, get used to whatever is going on with your body, with your breath, with your mind, and will start to entertain itself. Those random thoughts will come to mind. The challenge is to acknowledge them, set them aside. And surrender and wait for the stillness to happen again. And from that stillness, epiphany, realization, euphoria may spring. It's like taking a mental break from your work, going out for a jog, and in the middle of the jog, solving a problem you were thinking about 2 hours ago. As your mind wandered while you were jogging, it spontaneously came up with the solution without you forcing it to do so. That's what meditation is all about. Inducing that state of mind. Do not move. We will be switching sides. And again, the goal is to switch sides with as little fuss, superfluous, extraneous movement. So moving with an economy of motion. Probably the easiest way to switch sides is to sit up, spin your legs around, and lean back over the pile. So you'll be facing the other wall, facing the other side of the room. This pile of stuff beneath your chest, pretty much leave it as is. As you back your hands up, press your hands down into the ground and sit up. Again, I think the most effective way is just to flip your hips. But do know that this other side is different. You want to have, if you're sitting on something, a cheek and a half on your cushion. 1 foot on the 1 foot adjacent to the knee, toes pointing back behind you. Sit on enough height so that this knee is happy. This knee is just not going to be happy tonight. You can take the leg out straight. You're going to build a pile of stuff, or adjust that pile of stuff so that it is as if it fell out of your hip pocket. And you're going to pull it in against your hip, pull it in against your waist, pull it in against your ribs, pull it in against your boobs, and then turn your chest towards that pile of stuff. One butt cheek will probably float. You're going to wedge that pile of stuff in against your chest and settle onto it. Support beneath your forearms. Turning to rest on the other cheek. Breathing. there's this notion in the meditating community that if we teach everybody, maybe we'll get the right somebody to meditate, cultivate that meditative trance-like state that allows their mind to wander, that allows them to come up with this solution to hunger, world peace, what have you. Maybe we need to teach that right mind. Let it come up with solutions. And so there's this little saying that meditation will solve the world's problems. Now I'm going to move you around a little bit more. I don't want you to fall asleep on me quite yet. I'm going to be coming into a supported side stretch. So you might want to look for this one. Moving slowly, dragging your hands back, putting your hands on the ground, pressing yourself up to sit. You might watch me set up for this one. I've got nothing underneath my hip, but I am going to build myself a nice pile to go beneath my ribs. I might take 2 couch cushions there. And I'm wedging it in against my hip. This is back to my first side. Wedging it in against the hip, up against my waist, and then draping my torso over top of it. And these cushions fit me pretty good. And that my arm pit comes over the top edge, and my arm is free on the ground. Now I've got to build a tower to support my head. This is where yoga blocks come in handy, or some stiffer, sturdier pillows. If you want to build up enough support for your head. And I've got a little notch here to fit my arm into. Support beneath the head. And again, don't be stingy. Don't be stingy with yourself. Come on. Plenty of other people that will do that for you. You don't have to do that to yourself. Don't be stingy with yourself. Okay? So support yourself. Wedge it in there. Feel nice and stable and secure so that there's no tension in your body. Again, there's support beneath your ribs. Nothing underneath your bottom shoulder. If you can get your arm in a groove, that's great. And definitely some good support beneath your head. My legs are just spilled out. They're kind of still in that mermaid position. But from here, I'm going to settle in. Notice your breath. Let yourself take 3 breaths, long, slow breaths. No hurry. And after 3 to 4 breaths, your muscles begin to hang from the bones, your bones begin to settle in. And you might find that you need to remove height from beneath your head. Don't be surprised if your neck releases a little bit. Your head settles in a little heavier. Maybe that top hip releases. The buttock kind of droops. Don't be surprised if you find deeper side body breath. Now you have the option of taking your top arm overhead alongside your ear, opening up the side body a little bit more. You also have the option of taking that top leg, extending the top leg out. So going for a greater side stretch from wrist to ankle, if that appeals to you. But any transitional halfway point along the way feels comfortable, stay there. Take the time to settle in. Let there be stages between the starting position and the ending position. settle into each stage along the way. So this pose will evolve more so than the others. And you might find that you're rolling as you're stretching and as you're opening up. And it's okay to shift and move. This is an excellent opportunity to expand your breath into your side body. Create more breath space, and therefore elongate each breath cycle. Now, this arm position isn't always appropriate for everybody for an extended period of time. If you're feeling tingling in your fingertips or a creeping, nervy pain, you can reposition that top arm. Try not to grit it out. No benefit in being uncomfortable. Same thing with your legs. If you've chosen a leg position that's starting to get uncomfortable, feel free to rearrange the legs. This is the most yin-like pose tonight. Yin yoga being a style of restorative yoga, long holds without a lot of support. Can really aggravate joints in people who have really loose joints, yin style of yoga. Also aggravate the joints and the nerves of heavier set folks, especially when they settle in on top of their nerves for extended periods of time in deep stretches. So this being the most yin-like of the poses tonight, don't be shy to preserve yourself, take care of yourself, acknowledge, okay, this isn't working for me, I need to change it up a little bit. It's okay. No judgments, there's no shit-us. Just let go of expectations. Just accept whatever happens. Acknowledge it, set it aside. And again, moving slowly as if there was any other speed. You're going to slowly roll and push into your hands and crawl up to sit. And you might consider just flipping your hips, turning around to face the other direction. So again, I have nothing underneath my hips and nothing underneath my legs. So pretty much from the waist down, I'm unsupported on the ground. But you can prop up a knee if you got a floating knee. You can ease an ankle. Extend a leg if you need to. I'm going to make a nice pile of stuff to go in against my side ribs. I'm going to drape my torso over top. And hopefully my arm will be in a groove and I'll have enough height to support my head on a pillow or 2 or 20. So it's a side line, side body stretch. And after the first 3 or 4 breaths, don't be surprised if you have to lower the height beneath your head. Your neck will be one of the first things to release. And then maybe that side hip and top buttock will droop. And now that you've done a handful of poses, your body responds quicker. And as you settle in, if you want to adjust, please do so. You can also intensify the stretch, get it more from wrist to ankle by sweeping the top arm overhead, draping it alongside your head, ear, or maybe extending that top leg out. So you can get a side body stretch from wrist to ankle. But feel free to customize this in whatever way feels best for you. And again, acknowledge that one side is different than the other. Finding ease in your breath. Finding more space for your breath. Filling that internal space with breath. Elongating the inhales, elongating the exhales. From here, we'll be transitioning to a prone position. That means lying face down with your torso supported. So you'll have a pile of blankets and pillows underneath your chest and your belly. Nothing under your thighs or your legs. Again, moving slowly, daydreaming, doing your yoga. In a trance-like state, crawling, moving slowly. You're going to make yourself a platform. Again, it's just a support for everything from bottom of your throat to your pubic bone, where your seatbelt sits across the tops of your thighs, the very bottoms of your hips. That hip crease, that pubic symphysis will go on the edge, the ledge of whatever platform you build for yourself. This is where you might also want your yoga belt nearby. And maybe a thin folded blanket or towel for underneath your face. Your head will hang off, but it does need a little support depending on how much height you've given yourself. Belt. Support for the torso, from the pubic bone all the way to your throat. And then your head can rest on a little pillow if it needs it. You're gonna curl your toes under, shimmy your legs side to side. I'm kind of pivoting on my toes, jiggling my hips, my heels side to side. Really feeling that pubic symphysis, that hip crease, right on the edge of whatever I put underneath my torso. Then arms can be out at your sides. You can have cactus arms. You can have palms flipped up, hands by your hips. Whatever is most comforting for your shoulders and upper back. And then you're just going to be here. And notice where your breath goes. For me, that breath quickly penetrates into my lower back. Deep belly breathing helps to spread across my lower back. And the support beneath the torso, but not underneath the legs, really helps to open up the low back, where your spine meets to your pelvis. The tag in the back of your pants, that region spreads and releases in a way it wouldn't otherwise if you were just lying on the flat ground. If spa service was available, A 5 or 10 pound bag of rice across your butt would feel like heaven. You got a cat or a dog, small child willing to come lie across your backside, that would probably feel so good. If you want to, this is an option. You don't have to take it. If you would want to add a quadricep stretch to this, reach back, take a hold of that ankle, pick an ankle, any ankle, just one of them. You might hold on with a belt and just let your arm be heavy. Let the weight of that arm invite that heel closer to your buttock. So again, you may notice that after 2 or 3 or 4 breaths, your thigh gets longer. The front of the hip releases even more. Maybe your shoulders relax a little bit more. If you are doing the one-legged version, where you're holding onto your ankle, you're going to switch sides. Again, moving slowly, dazing style. You're just resting with both legs straight. Consider turning your head the other way. Turn the other cheek. If you are catching hold of your foot, bringing that heel in towards your buttock, get a good grip with that belt. Maybe loop the belt around the back of your hands a few times. You want to come into a comfortable hold where you can begin to release and invite your breath deeper into your body and let your muscles begin to hang from the bones. If you're holding on to a foot, release it. And just come back to that neutral pose, both legs extended. And before we move into the final pose, once again, you have to be honest with yourself and acknowledge without judgment if you're one of those type of people who will drum their fingers during Shavasana, or one of those people who snore during Shavasana. Figure out which one you tend towards, because that will determine what your final Shavasana pose will look like. If you are one of those people who has a difficult time shutting off their mind, who's easily distracted during Shavasana, who drums their fingers, and then you would be better served with your legs higher than your heart. Because with your legs higher than your heart, blood drains from your legs. It perfuses your chest, flows easily into your brain. Your heart rate slows, your breath rate slows, and you're more likely to relax deeply with your legs elevated. Now, if you're one of those people who pass out and start to snore during Shavasana, you'd be better served by being in a more upright recliner type of supported Shavasana. So I will demonstrate the upright recliner supported Shavasana first, which means if you're the drum the fingers type of person, you can hang out here for a few more minutes in the current pose that we are in. If you're one of those people who wants to come into the recliner Shavasana because you tend to snore and fall asleep like I do, you're going to slowly bring your hands beneath your shoulders and slowly begin to press yourself back, transitioning towards a child's pose. Crawling back up to sit. And you might have a quick look and see what I'm doing here as I set up for Shavasana for people who snore. So Shavasana for us snory types starts with dead fish blocks, if you know what I'm talking about. Some blocks to go underneath your shoulder blades, and I'm putting a double stack here. Some blocks to go underneath your head. And again, I'm giving myself a big stack. So the pile of stuff that goes underneath your head is going to be higher than the pile of stuff that goes underneath your shoulder blades. There's a step. I'm going to cover that whole situation, and there's a gap between these blocks. That's for my neck. So my head will be supported, my shoulder blades will be supported, my neck will be hanging. I'm going to cover all of that with my bolster. I'm also going to keep a pillow nearby if I need a little extra something underneath my head. I'm going to be sitting in front of this. In a moment, I'll be lying back over it. But now I'm going to build up the lower half. If you are still lying face down on your tummy, and you're one of those people who drums their fingers, you're going to slowly transition up to sit and have a look and see what I'm doing with my legs. So if you're one of those people who drum their fingers, who fidget mentally or physically during Shavasana, and you would benefit from having your legs elevated, you're going to definitely elevate your legs. You're going to pile up pillows, blocks, whatever. Give yourself a big pile of support. Go underneath your knee pits, from your knee pits to your ankles. You would also benefit from tying your thighs together. So we've done this a couple times over the last few weeks where we've had our legs up for one reason or another. putting your legs up and tying your thighs together. If you know how to buckle your belt, then buckle your belt. Or just tie it in a knot. It should be a firm hold, but not a tourniquet. It's better if you put that buckle between your legs so it's not digging into your skin. So securely bring your legs together so they stay about hip width apart. They don't wander off to the sides. Support yourself. Put lots of stuff underneath your shins, maybe underneath your ankles. Sometimes a little extra roll underneath the ankles lets those feet relax even more. So if you're one of those fidgeter types, you're just doing the bottom half. Lots of stuff underneath the bottom half. If you are the snorer type, you can do the bottom half and the top half for the ultimate Cadillac Savasana. If you have even more stuff available, something underneath your forearms, it just helps the shoulders to relax that much more. Spread out your backside, settle in. If spa services were to come by and cover you with a blanket, that would feel wonderful. If you need a little extra something underneath your head, put it in place. Take the extra 30 seconds to make yourself extra comfortable. Once again, check in with your breath. moving slowly, coming back into yourself. Deepening your breath. Beginning to stretch, maybe yawn. Wiggle fingers, wiggle toes. Wiggle your jaw. Wiggle your nose. We're good to transition with a yawn or two. Making your way slowly over onto your right side. Making your way to a seated position. We'll finish with hands together at the heart. Namaste. And have a wonderful night and a good night's sleep. And maybe I'll see you on Sunday. Sunday. Good night, everybody.